All right, so now it's worth considering some of the benefits of the Internet of Things, just what it has to offer. In the business world, they're pretty unparalleled. They would include, for one, business processes are better monitored, and things like accounting, finance. These can be much easier to track when you can do it from multiple devices, multiple locations. Customer service experiences are smoother, faster. It's again, you avoid the person-to-person contact a lot of the time, and time and monetary expenses. That's the immeasurable part of all this. There's no expense to an application like Google. It's totally free, and businesses can take advantage of this. They offer truly what another business may offer for, well, over three times the price, and the price is zero for Google. So some more benefits, employee and worker productivity is definitely maximized. Physical data copies, like things on hard drives or floppy disks, that's pretty much thrown out. Business models and projections can be better communicated and compared when you've got those other resources right at your fingertips. And in turn, these improvements can generate more revenue for the business as a whole, mostly because it just cuts down on labor costs and it's much faster. So the fields of the Internet of Things and what they're included in, right now it's not limited to the world of what you would say accounting or numbers or statistics or computer engineering. The Internet of Things is being included in the auto industry, in the telecommunication industry, in renewable energy, the medical field, more and more. These companies have the advantage of being able to transmit their data basically from device to device, quickly, efficiently, get information at a very high speed, and then get results and give their services in that same process. So in the consumer segment, we may include everyday items like smartphones, smartwatches, computers, as mentioned before. Interesting is the development of the smart home. So the smart home would basically incorporate all of these devices into a home that was essentially smart, interconnected, no matter where you went, no matter what you were doing. So appliances, the thermostat, heating, lighting, air conditioning, security systems, all this interconnected into one big cloud per se. And smart homes could, maybe not recently, but in the near future or distant future, become the future of the real estate industry. So, in the healthcare segment, as we mentioned before, the results of this incorporation are kind of new still, haven't been fully explored, but the results obviously would show much promise. The ability to monitor a patient without the supervision of a physical human, a doctor. First of all, it would cut back on human error, and second of all, it's just much faster, much more consistent. Patients can get in and out of the hospital, the doctor's office much quicker. Inventory management, like pharmaceuticals that are tracked, medicines, just patient history, all of these things are much more accessible with the Internet of Things when you're interconnected among devices with patients, with doctors, all of that's in one system. And even in agriculture, some may not consider agriculture a prominent spot for the Internet of Things to be put, but even the rural concept of agriculture and farming is greatly assisted by the application of the Internet. So farming systems, they can monitor light, temperature, soil condition, other growing conditions, all based on a cloud computing system that sends that information from the farm back to wherever the central headquarters or location for the farmer may be. The future of farming with this more so points to the end of the small business farmer if this panned out, or the small business farmer would have to progress to a much more technologically advanced system of measurement or growing to keep up with the bigger companies that can afford this this more technological infrastructure. But as a whole, this is more efficient for labor. You won't have to hire nearly as many workers to work on a farm when you've got machines that are tracking your crops, making them a much more efficient growing process. And a very future concept, the smart city. So the smart city eventually would be considered the peak of innovation in the Internet of Things. It was developed by a Dr. Rupert Gladway at the University of Chicago. It would involve a system of sensors, deployers to carry out functions of a city, like traffic stops, traffic lights, parking systems, traffic. As a whole, it would greatly improve sanitation, could track what people were doing, which, again, is kind of a scary concept, but one that we wouldn't necessarily put past for a potential future standing point in this age of the internet. So there are some concerns, obviously, about the Internet of Things. The first one, of course, security concerns about a world that is completely intertwined. So the scary part about this would be the idea of bots and hackers getting into a device that is intertwined with hundreds of thousands of millions of other devices in the world that would cross over to being able to access those ones. That would be the scary part in this. Devices being so closely connected, the entire multitude could be accessed very quickly if they got a simple domain name or server name. This could lead to thousands of dollars in damages, obviously. Another concern would be personal information being given away from said hacks. So many of our devices have our personal information there, our date of birth, our gender, our age, and more insurance information, credit card information. So the risk of fraud is definitely heightened. And also just the threat of companies that provide the Internet of Things selling users' personal information, that when they depend on those companies to, moreover, have their best interests in mind. But as a whole, these hacks and these bots to get into these things have been few and far between. We haven't seen very much of it. And as a whole, the cloud has done pretty well in keeping up with itself. So, what could the future hold? There's little doubt that the future is the internet, and the future is the internet connecting many devices. So, it's estimated by 2020 it'll be responsible for over 450 billion in gross revenue, which is not at all a surprise considering just how much we use the internet and our interconnected internet cloud applications for our businesses now, for our schools, for our education, etc. The amount of users will almost double by 2024 as a younger generation comes in that's much more fluent in these processes, and the impact is truly immeasurable for what this could once reach. So to summarize, we went over what exactly the Internet of Things is, what devices might this include, the history of the Internet of Things, how much it's grown, companies based on these concepts, how the Internet of Things actually works, the benefits of the Internet of Things, the fields, including consumer, healthcare, agriculture, and frontier segments, concerns about the Internet of Things, and the overall future of what it holds coming up soon. We hope you enjoyed this. Hope this was helpful. Hope this helps to better summarize what exactly the internet is in its terms of connecting devices, connecting applications in the Internet of Things in essence and as a whole.